Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about 10 powerful takeaways from the new documentary, CBD Nation. Now, CBD Nation is a documentary that hasn't released yet, but it seems like it's a full like motion picture release, not just a documentary on Netflix. Even though documentaries on Netflix are really good, it's nice to see CBD out on the big screen, or hopefully it'll be out on the big screen. At least that's what this, uh, this movie poster looks like. It's going to be in the big screen. But this article from Forbes basically kind of gives 10 takeaways from the documentary. I can't wait for it to come out. I'd like to watch it myself. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of good information in there. Like I said, there's not many documentaries or anything out there like that for just CBD and how much it helps people. Now that there's more and more information coming out every day about how CBD does this, CBG does this, CBN, and all this other stuff, there's a lot more. CBD is definitely taken a lot serious now, especially with the FDA approval of Epidiolex, which is a huge stepping stone for CBD and everything encompassing it. So, before we start this video, and before we go over this article, please like, please subscribe. Really helps out the channel. If you've got any questions for me, please comment in the comment section down below. And if you're looking to get into CBD yourself, not quite sure what you need or what you yourself needs, because everyone's different, and definitely want to make sure that you're taking the right dosage, you're taking the right type of CBD. If you need any questions on that, there's a quiz in the description. Basically, it asks you a few questions, and then afterwards, we kind of give you personal recommendations, and we set you up with a pretty much personal CBD expert that you can call or email, and you can go through. You can basically ask them questions, and they'll give you recommendations for what CBD to use, how to use it, how much to use. Definitely go to your doctor first, but we do have experts in the field that can definitely help you out. But let's switch gears and get to this article. Okay, so only in recent years has CBD made its way into mainstream vernacular, and consequently, cannabidiol has never fully been told on screen. Buzzword status was reached roughly in 2018. The same year, National CBD Day, August 8, was recognized by the registrar at National Day calendar. The soon-to-be-released documentary CBD Nation is the first wide-release film dedicated to the cannabis plant compound's deep roots. Featuring leading experts in cannabis and medicine, including Raphael Mechoulam, the Israeli scientist who discovered THC, the endocannabinoid system, and the therapeutic efficacy of CBD to treat medical conditions. The 83-minute film exposes 60 years of often ignored published reports and ongoing research. The project turned its director, producer, and editor, David Jakubovic, from a CBD cynic to a CBD champion. Creative director at Mad Machine Films, he got a start at the age of 18 during the mandatory military service in the Israeli Air Force. When he was assigned to make training films, he was assigned to make training films in the Air Force. His recent credits include World War II special for National Geographic and History Channel's series Washington. Yeah, so he's done a bunch of stuff. He's been in space since he was 18, so he's definitely got some experience. I think that was just like a little bio for the guy who created this. Quote, when I was asked if I wanted to make a documentary about the science of medical cannabis, my initial reaction was no. I didn't know anything about it, and my instinct was that CBD was an overblown fad, he admits. Worse, I didn't feel like spending a year living in a world surrounded by cannabis users. I had tried cannabis at 22, and the experience was just so intense that I stayed away from the plant for another 13 years. And that's what I feel like a lot of people get in when they get into, or when they get asked about CBD. Their immediate thought is weed and marijuana, and I don't want to get high, and that was stupid. or and when they think of that, they immediately discredit CBD and THC and what it can do if used medically um, uh, rather than recreational. That's the word I was looking for. I don't know why it took me that long. Even this guy, he says that at first he was like, I don't want to be around people who smoke weed, and that sounds like a bad time. Didn't even think about the medicinal effects when it comes to CBD and THC, and that's kind of like the caveat for getting into CBD. You have to most people will think that you're a pothead or you're smoking weed or you're just wasting time, when it's not really about that. Especially if you treat it as such. If you treat it seriously and you treat it medicinally, it can be used as such. All right, so he changed his mind after watching a TED Talk from Dr. Dedi Meri, a biologist who runs the world's leading cannabis lab technician university in Israel. Based in New York City, Jakubovic started shooting CBD Nation 2 years ago, first traveling back to his homeland. With interviews also spanning the US and Canada, more than 30 physicians, clinicians, scientists, and patients clearly explain how the human body has evolved to work with cannabis, providing not only healing, but also hope for the world's most politicized plant to be accepted for what it is, medicine. Among the many powerful personal stories CBD Nation tells, it's Riley Madler's at age 7. She was diagnosed with a rare degenerative disease, which in her case caused tumors to eat away at her facial bones. Today, the 14-year-old remains the only known person in the world with the condition whose bones have regenerated. That's fantastic. That's amazing. I hope that doctors, educators, and politicians see this film. Madler, who worked closely with legislators in her home state of Delaware to pass Riley's Law, granting children with qualifying conditions access to medical cannabis. Because I am living proof of the fact that cannabis and CBD have a place in modern medicine, she says. In celebration of the success story like Madler's and National CBD Day, here are 10 of the most powerful takeaways revealed in CBD Nation, available on Amazon, iTunes, and VOD on August 25. Okay, so it is being released on streaming platforms. So that's awesome. August 25. Definitely want to do a video on that. Definitely want to watch that when it comes out. I'm really, really excited, actually. All right, so David, producer and director of CBD Nation, quote, over the course of this project, I came to realize that cannabis is far from a gateway drug. For many, it's actually an exit drug from pharmaceuticals and narcotics. And in the US, which accounts for 5% of the world's population, it consumes 75% of the world's pharmaceuticals. We can no longer afford to be in the dark about facts that can save lives, end quote. And yeah, that's right. So a lot of people think that drugs equal heroin, weed, cocaine. They don't even think about opioids, like benzodiazepine is a huge one that gets people addicted, and then they end up either overdosing or taking it too long or taking too much. So if it can be supplemented with a natural substance like CBD, more power to it. I hope that in the future we get more natural with our medications, and that will hopefully get rid of the negative stigma when it comes to CBD, because if anything, those pharmaceuticals and narcotics that people get addicted to and they get prescribed, in my opinion, are worse than the Schedule I drugs that are illegal. So, yeah. So Dr. Reggie Gaudino, VP of R&D, Front Range Biosciences, formerly Chief Science Officer, Stepped Hill. Quote, almost all organisms that come out of the water have an endocannabinoid system, and they're related. If there's a receptor for cannabis, there must be something inside humans that trigger the receptor. The endocannabinoid system's job is to maintain the balance of all other systems, right? So if you have a bunch of other systems that do their thing, and the endocannabinoid system sits on top of all of them and makes sure that they don't go out of control. I think we are going to see an increasing number of people who start taking responsibility for their own health and become present in their own well-being. Yeah, so that makes perfect sense. All mammals have endocannabinoid systems. They all work very similarly, and CBD works hand in hand with the endocannabinoid system. So it would only make sense that um, people would rather go the natural route than take a bunch of pharmaceutical pills or opiates, anything like that. Granted, those do help and they're proven to help. However, there are negative side effects to using those. So using a natural um, supplement that will help aid you in your healing um, seems like a no-brainer. But with social stigmas and all of that, it hurts things like this, which is unfortunate. Um, but yeah, I definitely think there's going to be an increasing amount of people who are going to go the CBD route once they find out the information. I think it's the lack of education and a negative stigma when it comes to anything cannabinoid. All right, so yeah, so Raphael Mekoulam, PhD, president of Multidisciplinary Center for Cannabinoid Research, Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Quote, we published our findings 37 years ago. Cannabidiol CBD blocks epileptic attacks in patients. What happened? Nothing for 30 years. Nothing happened until desperate parents, like those in this film, did their own research and found out that cannabidiol can help children with epilepsy. But epilepsy is just one of the many conditions that we know cannabis medicine can treat. If the world chooses not to look at all of the science, it is not ignorance, it's negligence. End quote. Yeah, so this is coming from the guy who basically discovered THC. So I feel like we should listen to him. But yeah, 30 years of epileptic research just brushed under the table. And what do you know? 2 years ago, the FDA approved Epidiolex, which treats a few major epileptic syndromes or diseases, and it helps children a lot. So imagine if we had those 30 years of Epidiolex, how many patients would be treated, how many patients would have less seizures. It would be insane. But I mean, better late than never, though. So Dr. June Chin, osteopathic physician, quote, there is a galaxy of these cannabinoid receptors throughout our entire body. The endocannabinoid system parallels the immune system, so there's really no psychological process in our body that's not affected by it to some degree. In my practice, I see a great deal of women with gynecological issues. What cannabis serves as is a very natural and potent anti-inflammatory and pain reliever. Healthcare practitioners really need to educate themselves on the endocannabinoid system and on medical cannabis very quickly. And yeah, so this is basically what people have to deal with when they go to their doctors. Their doctors will prescribe them, pharmaceutical drugs that have been proven to work in the past. And sometimes, if you even ask about cannabis or CBD, you'll get immediately dismissed. And there are more studies or trials, more things coming out saying that CBD is helpful. So these doctors are going to have to kind of turn it around and do their own research and make sure they know what they're talking about before they tell their patients no to cannabis or no to CBD, because it can definitely help people. And it has, I've seen it firsthand. I talk to people every day that come in and say that this is helping their arthritis or whatever, way more than what their doctor prescribed them. So it definitely does help. All right, so David again has another quote. In 1976, the US government's National Institute on Drug Abuse published a 250-page report which discussed the medical use of cannabis. It stated that the potential benefit of cannabis should be studied. It discussed its therapeutic effect as an anticonvulsant, an antidepressant, and antibacterial. The report referred to cannabis as reducing nausea and vomit in cancer patients, treating glaucoma, asthma, and pain. It stated that significant pain reduction was seen in cancer patients, and it even discussed cannabis as helping reduce tumor sizes. And yeah, all those things, there have been studies that help prove its healing, its benefits. Now, can we say that it definitively treats glaucoma, asthma, or pain? No, obviously we can't say that until there's more studies that come out and until the FDA approves certain cannabinoids for certain treatments. But there are many, 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 many studies out there that are moving us in the CBD does help these things direction, which is great. Martin A. Lee, director of Project CBD and author of Smoke and Signals, quote, there is also the Schaefer Commission, same conclusion. They're always coming out with these federal reports. It's crazy. It's like, what does it mean? People are often coming forward saying it helps with my multiple sclerosis, helps my depression, helps my kidney disease, liver disease, cancer, neurological, autoimmune disorders, diabetes. So many things people were reporting. If you have a government, why don't you pay attention to what it figures out? It makes no sense, but the whole marijuana policy has not made any sense. It was always built on lies, and we still suffer from that as a culture, as society, as a world, end quote. Yeah, so I mean, this is basically going over, it helps so many people, why is the government not, putting all of their efforts into making sure that we can find the best, possible way to help people with CBD. So yeah, continuing on. So David goes, the Schaefer Commission was appointed by President Nixon, and its report stated that a careful search of the literature and testimony of the nation's health officials has not revealed a single human fatality in the United States proven to have resulted solely from the ingestion of marijuana, and that most users, young and old, demonstrate an average or above average degree of social functioning, academic achievement, and job performance. Yeah, so there's a stigma with marijuana that you're lazy, you don't do anything, you're just gonna sit around all day. But there have been studies that come out that people who actually smoke marijuana are more productive, more creative, and all these other things. So, and there are no recorded deaths from smoking marijuana by itself. So there's really no reason why it should be so negatively viewed in society. All right, so Leonard Linnau, cannabis grower and breeder, quote, I'm one of the first people that started growing CBD-rich cannabis that I know of. I'm actually a pioneer in that movement because I'm one of the people that said, hey, CBD is really important. In the 70s and early 80s and early 90s, most of the industry and breeders had been dominated by people who like to get high. So the direction that breeders went was who can make the highest THC plant that's going to knock your brains out. So the growers, they bred out CBD. Yeah, so yes, THC back then, I suppose, was definitely a more recreational drug, and the research and development stemmed to creating the highest high rather than creating a healing property, which is unfortunate, but capitalism, people are going to want recreational versus, and the difficulty of making a plant like CBD or THC, which is already a Schedule I drug, to try to put that as a forefront for a healing property, I can see that being very hard, especially back then. But now it's obviously improving, so we're just moving in the right direction, which is nice. All right, so Steve D'Angelo, co-founder, Harborside, and Steve Hill. Quote, we didn't start Harborside with the idea of creating a business or making money. It wasn't our main objective. We had a greater mission, to tell the world the truth about cannabis. I called every single commercial testing laboratory in the Bay Area and asked them to test our cannabis. Because if I was going to call it medicine, if I was going to provide it to people who have compromised immune systems, I need to know exactly what was in it. I need to know that it was safe. Everyone refused to test our medicine out of fear of federal prosecution. So we started Steep Hill. There was low CBD content in the supply, really, of California's entire cannabis market. It seemed like a crisis to us. We started to question, how do we get more of this compound into the plant? We went back to the growers who supplied us and encouraged them to grow more of it. Yeah, so Steep Hill, they're definitely some pioneers in the industry. They helped out a lot with getting CBD to the forefront, and yeah, that's awesome. Dr. Sue Sisley, internal medicine specialist and medical cannabis activist. Quote, I had this huge faction of patients in my practice who were claiming that they were getting benefit from this plant, and I was very skeptical. I was basically dismissive of these claims because I thought they were just drug-seeking stoners. That's what I had been taught in the medical school. And then I began losing a lot of veterans in my practice to suicide, and that was when I had this real epiphany that all these lousy pharmaceuticals are not helping them. There's tons of medication that I prescribe to patients that make them high, right? Whether it's pain pills, benzodiazepine, like Xanax, all of them have the potential to cause euphoria, and we don't condemn those pills, but yet when it comes to this natural God-given plant, we vilify it. We treat it like it's so dangerous, like plutonium, when in fact it's far safer than most of the prescriptions I write for people every day. I started to finally examine the scientific literature, and I regretted how judgmental I was over the past many years because I probably could have saved more lives. Yes, especially with veterans and PTSD and suicide. Veterans could benefit probably the most out of anyone by using medical cannabis or CBD. It really helps with easing those symptoms of PTSD and depression and anxiety that a lot of veterans are succumb to from coming back from overseas. So it's crazy how many doctors just dismissed and just judged people based on what society thought of what it was that the drug offered. So it's funny how doctors can also get swayed by the general public, even though science and medicine is it's based in fact and reality and consistency and repetition versus what people think it is. So it's kind of funny how doctors can also get into that. Basically, they'll succumb to what the mob rules, which is unfortunate. So hopefully, now that doctors are starting to realize what CBD, what cannabis can do for people, they'll be more apt to recommend it to people, and that will help everyone out. And yeah, but that's it for today's article. I really cannot wait for this CBD Nation documentary to come out. Definitely going to be putting on my notifications and waiting for this to come out. Like I said, it does come out on, I thought it said August 25th on Amazon, iTunes, and VOD, which I don't know what VOD is, but I'm sure it's halfway decent. I'll probably watch it on Amazon. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what they talk about. I'm really excited to see Riley and her story because for her, I'm sure it was just a crazy thing to go through, having to go to a bunch of different doctors, having them prescribe you a bunch of things and nothing works, and then you find this plant that grows out of the ground that everyone tells you that it's a bad plant, and it literally saved your life. So hopefully there are more stories like that come out and make CBD and cannabis more relevant than they already are. But that's it for today's video. If you liked the content today, please like, subscribe. If you have any questions, definitely comment in the comment section below. Like I said, we do have a CBD quiz, and we'll get you with a professional that can walk you through step by step on how to use CBD, where to get CBD, what's the best dosage for you, and give you some really good advice. Again, you must talk to your doctor. I mean, I know I just told you that your doctor might not tell you that CBD is a good option, but definitely you want to consult your doctor first before making any decisions, because if you're taking medication currently, say for instance you're taking a coagulant blood thinner, CBD is known to act or work as a blood thinner, so taking two at the same time could definitely be dangerous. So there's things like that you need to talk to your doctor first, and so that you yourself are safe. But again, thank you guys for tuning in, watching, listening. I really appreciate it. But you guys have a wonderful day, okay? Bye now.